Dragon Con! We are back from Dragon Con, and I got a full night's sleep. Thank goodness.
Several even.
Yeah, I feel like a human again. I don't think we got sick so far, fingers crossed. It was an amazing time. We'll have a kind of music video coming out later. Bill filmed a bunch of Dragon Con.
Oh, yeah.
So that video is coming out. But we cosplayed our Baldur's Gate 3 characters. Premiered at Dragon Con. The first time you wear a costume is always an adventure.
A little bit of a prototype vibe, and we figure out a lot of things the first time you wear it.
Yeah, and there was a meetup like right Friday. We got there Thursday, Friday morning, Baldur's Gate 3 meetup. So many amazing costumes there. Holy cow. There were so many costumes, they couldn't fit them all in one photo. So they went up in groups, so all the Gales went up.
There were a lot of us.
Yes, and there were so many Karlachs. Oh my gosh, and they were all so incredible. It was so neat to see them. The only problem was it was pretty hot outside and humid, so we all dispersed quickly and didn't get to chat for very long. In this video, I want to go over some of the Karlach pieces I've made in videos already, and also all the other pieces I've made since then. And you can start to see how my process got really quick and simple as time went on, because I ran out of time.
Surprise, surprise.
Even though I have my awesome notebook, for a couple days, I was totally keeping track of all the building, but the week before Dragon Con, there's nothing in here, just nothing. I just threw this aside and finished my costume, enough to wear, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, getting it to the finish line that last week was what really mattered, even though there were some minor setbacks.
But we still made it!
We did, and our basement is dry now.
It's always something, always something.
So why don't we start over here, Britt, and take a peek at all your costume parts, and we can see how everything went.
The Karlach wig and horns worked incredibly well. 10 out of 10, wouldn't change a thing. Did not want to slip off. All I did was use a bobby pin on either side to pin it to my wig cap underneath. And the horns are nice and floppy and worked really well in the luggage. Last minute, I did add these little foam pieces here, thinking I might try and glue the horns to my head. Doesn't need to with this costume. I didn't need to glue them. They wanted to sit flat on my head enough. They're not like super squished in there, but these foam things actually got in the way. I'm gonna tear that right off. Last minute changes to your costume aren't always the best idea if you don't try them out ahead of time. Unnecessary, just got in the way. I love wearing helmets in costumes, and this was a great example of something that's kind of like a helmet because I just set it down on top of my head. Super easy. The foam clay ears also worked incredibly well. I used Prozade to tack down the ears on the top and the back here. And I think that's where the trick is. Where you put the glue, it makes it kind of hard to jam onto your ears. So that was really my only issue, was I need more practice on where to put the glue and how to jam it on my ears. One comment in my ear video was suggesting putting it on the Prozade wet, mushing it on there and holding it in place. And apparently that's a way you can get it in place before it becomes tacky. So maybe I'll try that next time. But yeah, these great, super lightweight. We'll do that again in the future. I didn't end up wearing my little teeth I made, my thermoplastic teeth. I feel like I need to do a version 2 where they stay on better. I didn't want to fiddle with them during the convention. In the video for this, I got the comment of making a bridge going from one tooth to the other with the same thermoplastic. That's kind of on the inside back of your teeth, so it all becomes one unit. This is great for photo shoots though. I can keep this in for 10 minutes just fine. The tail was a huge success. I think the favorite part of my costume. It wiggles and moves so well. It travels really well. I can curl it up like this in my luggage. The one addition I did since the video is I took some fabric markers and just drew on some of the ridges to add a little bit of detail. I didn't get time to airbrush it, but the fabric markers worked pretty well. I love this tail. It is so much fun to wear. Oh, also, being in a crowd, I was able to scoop my tail up with my hand and hold it on the little hooky thing so that it wasn't in the way and hitting people. Super nice. I used the same 4-way stretch red fabric for all the other red parts of my costume. These are my gloves that I am very proud of. I did the turkey glove method where you just put your hand down on the fabric and trace around it, have 2 layers of that, sew a straight stitch around the trace line, and that way you have a really tight fitting glove. And for the nails, I bought temporary acrylic nails and hot glued them on my glove while I was wearing it. Maybe not the safest thing, but the hot glue wasn't that hot, and I did not burn myself. Maybe there is a better, more careful way to do it. I would not recommend being reckless with hot glue, but worked out for me. Look at that! And these nails were shiny beforehand, but I buffed them with a Scotch-Brite pad to give them more of a satin look, so they look more natural and less like glossy painted. Very cool.
Huge success.
I made my pants from scratch. Used Yaya Han's two-way stretch faux leather fabric. This stuff is awesome. It's like soft on the back, and this side glues to anything, like hot glue, fabric glue, it all works great. It stretches in one direction and not the other. And while I was quickly making my pants, I was not paying attention to that. So this pant leg doesn't stretch in the right direction. It only stretches like the long way. And then this one's the opposite. It stretches sideways and not this way. So whatever the correct way was, they're both different. So one of them's wrong. I took some of my extra red stretchy fabric and fabric glued it to the inside of these like holes here. And this is holding really well. Like as long as I get a good tacked on attachment there, this stuff is way stretchier than the fake leather. So it's not gonna really give away. I also did this pretty quickly and accidentally glued on some stuff I wasn't supposed to, so this one seems all gross, but that's okay. I did all of this hand stitching on afterwards, so I zigzagged this all on there. The shirt was a whole thing. I had this kicking around in my head for a couple weeks of different things I wanted to try. Karlach has an infernal heart in her chest that glows and lights up, and I thought that would be a great feature to try and add. But also her skin is red, and one of her shoulders is very scarred and beat up. So I was trying to figure out how to do all of it. I decided to do a undersuit, again the same stretch fabric. The neck hole is the seam where it transitions into fabric paint for my face. The shoulder with the scars on it, I used puff paint. So if you go to a craft store, they have this paint that's kind of designed to stay a little goopy and thick so you can trace on letters. It also works really well for like veins and scars. This is 2 layers. First layer I kind of brushed on in place, and once that's set up, I did a thicker raised up layer. These little dots are made out of foam dowels. They're a little prouder than the reference. They're supposed to be a little thinner, but I think they turned out super cute. I just snipped them off, sanded them down, hot glued them straight onto the shirt. I had this on our male mannequin when I was doing all of the details, so the shoulders are really stretched out. They're more muscly than my shoulders, so the whole thing's a little wrinkly and loose. I think that's the one thing I'm not too happy about with my costume, is I would like to tighten all of this up or add some little muscles underneath to make them a little bigger. I used a Kamui Cosplay chest piece pattern to make a fake chest for the glowy lights to be housed inside of. And instead of making that out of EVA foam, I made it out of Plastizote in white. And Plastizote is more of an open cell foam. It still glues together like EVA foam, but it shines light through. You can see here where I got some of my face paint on it. This is kind of supposed to look like a rib cage. This is where the hot spots of her chest lights are. So I cut straight through their fabric, and again, I fabric glued this right onto the Plastizote, and it holds pretty well. I could rip this off if I wanted to. And then I kind of airbrush around the outside just a little bit. I really ran out of time for the airbrushing, just to give it a little more gradient there. The lights inside are the chip on board LEDs, so they have lights all the way along them that are really close together, and they are 12 volts, so they are super bright. Even with all these studio lights on, you can still see the lights. I'll take it apart and show you the inside though. The cable comes out the bottom of the chest and goes through a hole in my shirt and then down into my pocket where this light is. And this here is a little connector that you put in line with your lights, and it has different pulse effects. They're really subtle. I don't think you can really notice it, but we added it because it was super easy. It's the kind of thing you're supposed to put in line with like your patio bar lights or your under car lights. Usually they're really fast flickering. I have it on the slow setting. Like I said, it doesn't like pulse low enough, I think is the problem. This was all done the day before we left for Dragon Con. Bill helped me always with my electronics. I'm just going to tear this off. This is some 2mm HG foam that I just used to tack everything in place. I really just didn't want the sweat getting in there. Not a good permanent solution. There we go. Look at this chaos. I got the red one, so it has this red casing on it. I don't know if the lights are always white and then that makes it red, or if they're red lights. I don't know. I used some more of the 2mm foam to hot glue little woven pieces of LEDs in here. That way no soldering's involved, just zigzags across and lights up everything. Oh my gosh, in low lighting, this whole thing is just like a beacon. It's hilarious. It's almost like too bright.
It's also really warm.
Yeah, that's the thing. So really bright lights usually mean they get pretty warm. And this is sandwiched in foam. So the heat really didn't have anywhere to go but out through the plastizote. I think it would be better if I had some holes all the way through the system. I mean, even a fan would be incredible in there. But for somewhere for the heat to go, because as it stands, this whole thing just gets warm. It doesn't get hot, but it gets warm. But yeah, last minute lighting solution. It looked great. People loved it. Lighting's always a big hit at Dragon Con. Even if you do something last minute like this, it just adds so much fun. Oh, oh. Wow.
Wow.
Can you see it pulsing at all?
It's really hard for me to tell.
It's just so quick. It's like, and then, like, that was the slowest setting.
And it doesn't get really bright and really dark.
Yeah, so if
more of a range would be cool.
If anyone in the comments knows of a different company that sells these, I know Tested Norm showed off a brand a while ago. They're not available anymore. So this was one I found on Amazon, and I feel like they're too subtle. Karlach's outfit has a whole bunch of crisscrossing strappy bits, and I knew I wasn't going to have enough time to do anything screen accurate. So I was looking around at what I have. She kind of has 3 different shapes of items, this one belt thing and then a big ring and a small ring. So I quickly 3D modeled those. Got my belt one and I got my big one and my small one. And I printed those in gray and I lightly dry brushed them with gold Liquitex paints. So, because it's supposed to look like a silver gold and I didn't have that. So you can still see a little bit of the gray underneath, but that's exactly what I wanted. And these are leftover ones because I didn't have time to do all the layers. For the bottom part, I used a belt I already had. This is one of those things that was advertised to me on social media and I was like, ooh, that's actually nice. It's a little side pouch. It was great. I got to keep my battery in this pocket here with a wire coming out, and then this one I had my phone in. And I hand stitched the belt pieces on here to look vaguely like this. It was good enough. The top straps I patterned right on the mannequin over the undershirt, and I started with this top shoulder piece and made a couple straps and just draped everything over it and would attach it, drape it, attach another one, drape it. Didn't get all the way done. She's supposed to have more down here, but I got enough to be enough of a shirt. The back has 2 strap connections that are Velcro. This one goes like this, I think, and then there's one that goes like that. And then it stays in place surprisingly well. I tried 2 different materials for this construction. This is just a vinyl fabric, not stretchy. We might have gotten this for our Skyrim Draugrs. This stuff is awesome. It hasn't deteriorated over the years like a lot of vinyl does, at least not yet. It's a teeny bit stretchy, so you want to make sure it's backed with something if it's going to hold any weight. I also tried vinyl tape. This is the kind of thing you can buy to put over fake vinyl furnitures that have damage on them. So you take a strip and just put it over the slash or hole or damage or whatever. This was really handy for taping these parts together. I used the tape in other spots to wrap around some nylon webbing straps, and you can see it kind of separates from the nylon strap, and I don't think it looks as great. I like the color. I tried sewing through it with my sewing machine, but this vinyl tape has adhesive on it, and my sewing machine did not like that. So you can see some of these are hand stitched on there. The vinyl fabric sews amazingly well, but for most of them, for most of the vinyl, I didn't have any backing on it. I just folded them over and hot glued it down. So no stitching needed, just fold it over, hot glue. These ones aren't quite as structural, but they're all the bottom pieces. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. I think these pieces that are the tape look a little too wrinkly, and I think the whole thing needs a weathering pass. Some like light tans around the edges I think would really add to this, but I'm just happy I got it done at all. This is where we're getting down to the wire with my costume. I didn't have too much time left. So I took my old black New Balances that I think I used for my Destiny Vex costume, and took some of the leftover stretchy fabric I made for my pants and just stretched it over the top with some Surebonder hot glue. And these things stayed on incredibly well. There's stretch to them, and I put on different pieces so it can kind of stretch where it needs to go. And the laces are just elastic cord, so I don't need to lace up my shoes at all. They're just like that forever. For the spats, I used some 2mm foam and stuck on more of my extra fabric there. I had to hand stitch this together because hot glue does not hold to this side of the vinyl. It loves the other side, but not this side. So they started peeling apart when I used hot glue, had to hand stitch them on. And to keep these cinched, they're supposed to have belts around them, but the last minute thing I got was brown elastic, like this. And after I have the spats on, I kind of just weave this around and it wants to stay in place. Actually worked really well. The bracers are the most last minute part of my costume. I just cut out 2 little squares of fabric and brought them with me. And the way we do it is these get kind of like wrapped around the bracer. And I have this on and Bill helps me get it in place. And it looks good once like the gloves and everything are on, but her outfit is very wrinkly and unkempt anyway, so I think it worked for just like a placeholder, but this is definitely something I would like to redo in the future. The favorite gifts I got at Dragon Con were the friendship bracelets they're now a part of my costume. So I got Hey Soldier and Karlach, Baldur's Gate specific ones, so I wear those here. And I also got a Dame Aylin's feathers. My friend Alyssa's costume, she gave me some of her extra feathers, and I just stick those in my gauntlet here, because I think Karlach would be a fangirl of Aylin and totally keep some of her feathers around as a souvenir. So it's kind of fun to add this stuff to my costume as well. For the makeup, I tried out water-based makeup for the first time. I got the Mayron's Paradise in Beach Berry. I think it would be pretty fun if you got a different red too, and were able to do some contouring with the 2 different red colors, but I just picked out one. I think this worked out as a good color to match my bodysuit. The first day I wore this makeup, I just wore this and a color set powder, which is more for cream-based makeups or latex applications. This didn't really stop this from coming off my face. What I learned from other people at the convention was I need a setting spray for makeup. So I went to the CVS at Dragon Con and there was 1 bottle left. It was hiding in the corner. So I don't know anything about this brand, but this was the one they had and I used it and it helped a lot, but I feel like it's not an industrial strength one. I was recommended Ben Nye as another product that has a good makeup setting spray, but I think Mayron has their own too. So this stuff seemed like really weak, but it did help a lot. The problem with this sweating off is it would get in my eyes. So it's not so much that, you know, the red is getting displaced, is that it was dripping into my eyes and stinging a little bit. And I still have a lot to learn, so it's not like I have the best method for putting this stuff on, but you use a sponge and you wet your palette. This activates once you add a little water to it. You wring out your sponge so there's hardly any water on it. Dab this in there and lightly dab it on your face. Just light pressure seems to be the key. And you can cover your whole face in whatever color you got. But definitely look online for tutorials. Mayron has their own website. They're the ones who have the correct way to use this stuff. I'm still a newbie at this process. I did a tiny bit of contouring using eyeshadow that I picked up. Ooh, look at that. Look at that glittery one.
So sparkly.
I didn't use that one. I used like some of this under my cheeks and some of this in like the T-zone, the higher parts. And it worked pretty well. Again, I think I have a lot to learn. And then I just used an eyeliner to darken the area around the eyes. At Dragon Con, it's really common to give gifts to cosplayers and also to have gifts to give. What we had this year was soul coins. In Baldur's Gate 3, Karlach gets you soul coins to use as part of her abilities. I went onto Cults 3D and found a maker who did a great 3D model of the soul coin. I purchased that, downloaded it, and then sliced off the back half to be able to have it say Dragon Con instead. And that way I could crank out a bunch of them on the build plate at the same time and not have to worry about 2-sided stuff I have to glue together later. And they look super cute. I also ended up with some extras. So if you were at Dragon Con and missed out, like at the photo shoot, I didn't get to give them to everyone. So I have quite a few left. send me an email at business@punishprops. I'll link it down below with your address, and I'll send you one through the snail mail with like a little envelope and a stamp, because I don't need these extra ones, and I would love to give them to you. And that's my whole costume, pretty much. If you have any other questions about my build, please leave them down in the comments. A lot of this is stuff I was trying for the first time, like vinyl tape and LEDs that shine through, you know, a plastizote chest piece. So it was really fun to try all these things, and nothing fell apart. So I call that a win.
It was a huge win.
Yeah, there's just more I want to add, like fixing this back stuff that's beginning to peel off and adding some more weathering.
This is great though, because it's a costume you can wear for years and keep adjusting as time goes on. Mm-hmm. And for future conventions like Emerald City Comic Con here in Seattle, maybe there'll be more Baldur's Gate stuff. Yeah, and we didn't have a chance to make the weapons. Like Gale usually has a wizard staff, and Karlach usually has some kind of axe. I would love to make a prop weapon and do a video on it to share with you. So expect more from these costumes in the future. That's all I have for you today. I'll suit up at the end of this video and show you the full costume as I run around the backyard. But thank you so much for following along with the build. A couple of you came up to me at DragonCon and said how much fun you had watching the build video. So I really appreciate your feedback. I'm so happy that you enjoyed the videos. Thank you as well to the members of our Extra Credit Club. It's because of you I'm able to make these videos at all, and I appreciate your support so much. You can join right here on YouTube. There's a little membership button, or you can click on the link below to go to our Patreon is another way to join. And we'll have a DragonCon video out next week. We filmed a ton of cool costumes, lots of people being silly and having fun. We've done plenty of those in the past. I'm sure we have a playlist for all our old DragonCon stuff you can go check out. So look forward to that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next build.